The weather gets warmer, people swim. I've had an above ground pool and an in ground pool in the past. I don't have a pool now. At least with the above ground, it's like you have a thing. It's sitting there, you can clean it, you can do stuff to it. It's an object, especially if you're going to buy it. You're buying a product. The pool's in the ground is a hole in the ground. You can't get excited over that. So, I don't know. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to keep going on our Cloud Native series, and we're going to talk about accessing shared network drives. We're going to talk about how it works from an Entra cloud-only perspective, what that looks like to the user experience, and how you can use Intune to even deploy those drives to the Cloud Native machines. I love that net tool you can use for the pool to scoop stuff out. That just looks like a ton of fun. I'd be open to doing that.
Get Rubix, solving for the modern workplace.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is start by opening a whiteboard, as with most things. So I have my on-premise domain with my Windows server, and on that server I have two file shares. I have share A and share B. So in Active Directory, I have a group A with users in it, and those users have access to the share A. We'll just make an arrow there. And in group B, I have the same thing. I have users in there. To access group B. I am not an artist, so we're just going to do the best we can. Okay. All right, this is my Windows server on my Rubix dev domain. I have two shares. They are very simple. They're just on the root of C. One is called share A and one is share B. So if we look at those permissions for the share A is permission to group A, while share B, you guessed it, is permission to share B. So assuming we have those groups syncing, that means they're available in Entra. So you can see I also have a group A and a group B up here. These are syncing from on-prem. It even says source is Windows Server AD, and the members are in there. Morty is part of group A, and Bruce Wayne should be part of group B. That's the Millionaires group. Yep. So I just want to show you an example. So this is Morty's machine. And if I open the command and do a dsreg command status, this is a cloud native device. So you can see it's Entra joined or Azure AD joined only, not domain joined. I have a VPN set up. It's a Azure point to site VPN, and it's running, and it has me connected to that domain. So if I wanted to, I have visibility to it. I could ping Rubix dev DC01. Okay, so we are technically, we have line of sight. And that's the critical thing with this. If I were to just go access that, because people always say, well, what's it like to access these things? And, these shares. So if I go share A, did you see that? I can't stress how important that is. On an Entra joined machine, accessing an on-prem resource, it just works, right? I didn't get prompted for anything. I just SSO in. And the reason for that, and a lot of folks don't know this, is on an Entra joined machine, you have the primary refresh token. And let me show you something. I'm going to go back to this dsreg command just to show you inside this token that I get as Morty. Take a look at this. Existing account name. Notice it has the UPN I sign in with being Entra joined, but it also has the FQDN short name, right? So it knows that Morty came from the domain. So it sees him coming in, and it's gonna, your Entra joined machine is not a foreign entity. It knows about it. So I was able to get in, and permissions are still intact. Remember, Morty doesn't have permissions to share B. So everything is still the same there. All right, but just accessing the network share is one thing. Let's say, for example, that I am mapping those drives. So share A for Morty and share B for Bruce is the G drive. How can I do that through Intune and map it? Well, this is where it helps to have the group syncing. So because my groups are syncing from AD to Entra, that means I can deploy a PowerShell script to read the user group. So depending on what it finds, it's either going to map share A to the G drive, or it can map share B to the drive based on what group they're in. So we can do that with PowerShell and a little graph. So I'm just going to make a folder and call it map drives. And this is actually going to be an Intune package for us. So I'm going to say map drives.ps1. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of this. So we're going to do a few things in this script. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an Intune detection rule. Then what we're going to do is we are going to authenticate to graph. Then we're going to get the user SID and get the root memberships. We're going to loop through those groups to determine what group the user is in, and depending on that group, map a drive. And then finally, we're going to create a desktop batch file to map. And the reason we're doing this is because if we're on a remote device and we're going to push this, we don't know if there's an always on VPN, if the user has to manually connect to VPN, if they're on the network. So it's a lot easier to just put the shortcut on the desktop for drive access. So this way you can communicate to users, yeah, go ahead and fire up your VPN, or make sure, you can see this first. So this is a pretty good, way to do it. And again, this is basic. As I do more episodes, we're going to go into kind of more advanced solutions. So the Intune detection rule is going to be path. I'm going to use C, program data, Microsoft, drive mapping, if test path. So if it's not there, go ahead and make it, and then add the file. So what we're going to do is we are going to say, we'll do set content path, and that path will be path. We'll call that drive mapping .text.tag value installed. Very, very simple. All right, authentication, we're going to do the same graph authentication process that we've been doing, that we use for everything, the migration script, pretty much everything we need there. So we need the client ID, client secret, and the domain, the name of your Azure domain. And I'm just going to add in that function. Okay, and I will throw some values in for myself. All right, so those are my values. You are going to need user read write. You're going to need user read all and group read all and group member, I think it is. Group member read all. Group member read all. Those are the permissions you'll need. Okay, so with the authentication there, we're going to get the user SID. And we're going to actually, we're basically going to get the users, we're going to get their UPN. It's going to make things easier to query them in the graph. So first we'll get the user. User equals get WMI object, class Win32 computer system, select object, username. SID, a lot of this we've used before in the migration. New object, new object, system, security, principal, NT account, user, And we're going to do translate to system security principal security identifier value. I did one extra, I think. New object. Yeah, no, we're good here. Okay, so that's our SID. And then we can use the SID to get the UPN. All right, so we're going to do that by saying the UPN is equal to get item property value, get item property value path HKLM software Microsoft identity store cache SID identity cache SID, and the value the name is username. And now we can use that to get the group membership. So to get the group memberships, what we would do is we would take a user. For example, I'm going to take Bruce Wayne, and I'll show you in the Graph Explorer here. So if I look up the users, so Bruce Wayne at rubiksdev.com, right? That's my user. But what I can do from here is I can use the member of switch or endpoint, and that will get me the display name of the group. Specifically, though, I want the on-premises domain name of the group. Where is it here? On-premises SAM account name for that group. Just because it's a synced group, I want to make sure it's the same matching as the on-prem one, since we're accessing an on-prem file share, so it's important we're in that group. So there you go. I could just take this, right? Back to our script. So how do we actually call this, though? All right, well, first of all, let's replace Bruce with the actual UPN of whatever we grab here, because this will apply to all users. We don't need that quote there. Okay, so we got the UPN. So what we're going to do is we are going to invoke REST method. Method is get. The URI will be this, and the headers will be headers. But what we're going to want to do from here is we're going to want to select object, expand property. We want on premises SAM count name, and that'll give us the name of every group that Bruce is a part of, or the user is a part of. So now we just loop through them. So we're going to say, because the goal is to write a batch file on the desktop. So that's actually pretty simple. So we're going to actually create our text in real time. So I'm going to say drives equals at echo off. So that's the start of the batch file. And what we're going to do is we're going to say for each group in group memberships, if the group is equal to group A, then what we're going to do is we're going to take our drives text and we're going to add to it net use G Rubik's Dev DC01 share A. So if you come back in group A, I'm going to add the network path of share A as your G drive, and then we'll break. Else if your group is equal to group B. And if that's the case, it'll be similar, but it'll be net use G Rubik's Dev DC01 share B. Break. Okay. At the very end, once we have essentially whatever we need written to that variable, I loop through. Let's see here. I could have done this a little bit better. I kind of mixed up my comments. It happens. Great. And then all we have to do now is create the batch file. So we're going to take drives to string is drives out string, which will take whatever we have in that variable to a string. And we're just going to make a new item. New item. Item type is a file. The path is we're going to put it on the public desktop. Public desktop. And it's going to be called mapdrives.bat force. And now we're going to set the content of that. Add content to see users public desktop map drives.bat drives to string, set the content, bat force. All right, let's package this up. So I'm going to go there. That's my map drives file I just made. I'm going to open the WinApp util as an administrator. And the script is called mapdrives.ps1. And now we have an Intune Win. Okay, so we're going to add an app, Win32, select the app package file. That's going to be mapdrives Intune Win. We're going to call this map shared drives. Publisher is me. You can put whatever you want. I'm done naming things. And the install command is PowerShell exe execution policy bypass mapdrives.ps1. Right? Mapdrives.ps1. Yes, we do not need an uninstall command. We are going to... One thing you could do is you can add the requirement to not run during out-of-box experience. This is from our last one. I'll link below. You could add a script that checks for that. I'm not going to do it here for the demo, but it's probably a good idea. You don't want this running during Ubi because you need a user. And as far as manually configuring the detection rule, well, we made the path. So this will be our detection rule. Program data, Microsoft, drive mapping, and our file is drive mapping.text.tag. That it exists. All right, I'm going to assign this to my autopilot devices. And let's see what happens. Okay, so after that deployed through Intune, we're on Bruce's machine. So I am going to double click on this batch file here because this has to be mapped as the user, so the batch file makes sense. Plus, I know if I'm on the VPN or not, or we're going to hope we know if we're on the VPN. So I'll open up File Explorer and I'll go to this PC. Okay, so when I open File Explorer, I can see I have my G drive. And if I go over to that, I can see my Batman stuff. If I go to the source, I can't get into anything I don't have permissions for. So if I try to go to share A as Bruce, I can't. Because Bruce only has permissions to share B. But if I go to Morty's device, and you can see the same thing, right? We mapped the drive, only this time, it redirected me to the A drive. Okay, so you can see I got my documents from earlier, and same thing. If I try to make my way to the share, I can't get into B. This is a very oversimplified demonstration of mapping drives. I more wanted to showcase the mechanics and the how it works, how the user can access it, and how this can be done easily with PowerShell. There are more complex functions to do it. Obviously, if you have a mapping of, thousands of users with 3 drives per group, and you can end up with quite a lengthy script. However, in the next episode, I'm going to show you some community tools that can make your life a lot easier, especially if you already have group policies for mapping these drives. Let me know your thoughts on this. Jump in the Discord, ask questions. Same old, same old. We'll be seeing you.